Just joining us, you are on Trust Television on our Daybreak show. It's that time of the day where the conversations seem to take a different cue from all the hardcore, issues that we seem to have taken a look at. To gradually drive into this conversation is a report by the Federal High Court in Abuja that has ordered the federal government to comply with the 35% affirmative action. Justice Donatus Okorowo, after dismissing the preliminary objections challenging the locus of the plaintiff yesterday, held that the national gender policy was meant to be implemented for gender balance. The action was brought by Fumi Falana on behalf of the Incorporated Trustees of Nigerian Women Trust Fund, Women Empowerment Legal Aid, and Center for Democracy Development, West Africa, Women Advocate Research and Documentation Center, Vision Spring Initiative, and Women in Politics Forum, among others. They had, among other reliefs, sought an order to ensure the 35% affirmative action policy of the federal government of Nigeria as contained in Section 42, 147, subsection 3, and Section 14, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. The National Gender Policy 2006 in the governance of the country, amongst others. We are joined in the studio by Mary Ikoku, the founder of Emerge Women and a member of the Manifesto movements, to shed more light on the topic, as well as Mujirayo, is that correct? Ogulana Ikaga. Ikaga, is it? Okay, a legal practitioner and also an activist. You're welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
You guys look nice today. What a way to start. Whenever I'm caught in a gender conversation, I feel like a fish out of water. Sort of feel like I naturally feel this should be a given. We shouldn't be going the way of the law, to have more than 50% of our population included, in our drive towards development and growth, as a population, as a country. Why do you think this court process was necessary to enforce this affirmative action? Starting with you.
Okay, so my name is Mojirayo Ogulano Nkanga.
Yes, so sorry.
The N is silent. No, it's fine. Okay, so I'm a lawyer, and interestingly, one of the plaintiffs is the International Federation of Women Lawyers, of which I am presently the secretary of that organization. And it's quite interesting that in today's Nigeria, we find an appalling way of discriminating against women. Now, if only the society is doing that, then it may just be something that we are tackling amongst ourselves. What makes it stressful is the fact that your government, the government of Nigeria, also now emphasizes this discrimination that we are seeing all around us. Now, let's say, for instance, we have 4 women out of the 37 members of the Federal Character Commission. Now, we have 37 members of a particular commission, and you can only pick out 4 women. Now, out of 36 ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we have 7 ministers who are female. Now, when we see this, and we now look back to a country that has signed on to a lot of international instruments, a lot of, CEDAW is one of them, a lot of laws around there in the regional forum, for instance, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, then it becomes a thing that we need to sit down and think about. How do we make sure that our government, the National Assembly members, are seeing the things that we are seeing? How can we let it be known that it is not something that women came out from the blues and said, oh, we want to fight the government? No, nobody's fighting the government. The Constitution, 1999 Constitution, has stated it plainly and clearly. No one should be discriminated against based on sex. So if you have 4 women out of 37, 7 women out of 36, and then in the National Assembly, for instance, composition, you see 22 out of 496 thereabouts, then it's something for us to be bothered about. When the Constitution has clearly stated no. And then the Constitution also stated in Section 14.3, and there was an emphasis in Section 147.3, that there shall not be a predominance of any person over another. And so it's all about equality. The Constitution is encouraging equality, but the reality on ground is not encouraging equality. So when we now have a government that thought about it and said, oh, let us really think about our people, about our women and girls, and come ahead and say, okay, we are going ahead to give a policy, which is now the national gender policy, and say, this is it, we are committing ourselves to 35%. Now, you said that as far back as 2006, and then you are not doing anything for us to see that you are really committed to achieving exactly what you have stated in your national gender policy. So that would also really make someone like me really worried, and I would really think about, let me go to the courts. The courts are there to interpret the law. They are there to let us understand, oh, are we the ones making mistake, or we don't understand what is, on ground? So the courts got this plaintiff's actions, got all our arguments, and then the court, and I'm so happy that the judge saw that the arguments had merit.
Really very interesting. I think
no.
I'm going to try.
No.
Let's hear Mary's thoughts on this as well.
No, like she said, I mean, it's pretty much interesting that over the years, women have continued to fight for what should naturally be given to them. But what is even more annoying is that men would have to sit at a table to really deliberate and debate whether they want to give women those rights. And that was the experience we had with the 9th Assembly, the 9th National Assembly, where all 5 gender bills were roundly rejected by the men in the National Assembly. And when I say by the men, listen, I'll be very deliberate about my conversations this morning, because there is really little women in the National Assembly can do. You have just 24 women out of 496 members of the parliament. So it becomes even impossible for these women to be, the only way they can get their way through is to lobby their colleagues. But you want to create a balance where you want a parliament that is human in nature, a parliament that have a true representation of every gender.
When you say a parliament that is human in nature, are you saying a parliament that is male-dominated is inhuman?
No, it's unjust and unfair to not have that balance. For fairness, equity, and justice, even our Constitution demands that you must not discriminate against any gender.
Coming to
However, let me land. However, that's not saying that women should sit around while power is given to you. Power is not served a la carte. Power is not, power is not won with on emotion. You need to step out, run for office, win your elections, but the country need to also recognize that there have been so many years of historical imbalances within this gender. And that is where affirmative actions come in. Affirmative actions are ways you can address those imbalances so that you can have a country that is equal, where everybody is represented on the table. And then when you address, if you don't address those historical imbalances, your country, our country, cannot develop optimally. And because we have, over the years, gone through series of injustice, not clearly stated that, these are not obvious things that you can put your finger on. They are things that have cultural connotations, traditional attitudes, in ways and forms that people have been culturally and socially constructed. So those constructs that people have lived with over the years are things Nigerian women are trying right now to address. And of course, there will be a lot of pushbacks. And when for 1 month, we were at the National Assembly. I was on this program some time back to discuss this. And while we were at the National Assembly protesting these gender bills, some of us said, okay, we need to take this to court. and a group, because we told you the last time I was here that we're not only just occupying the National Assembly, there were other actions and advocacies that we are engaging in. And one of those was going to court. We sued the federal government. We sued the federal government. Nigerian women sued the federal government. And I'm so grateful for all of the group of women and the chambers of Femi Falana's chamber and the court for raising the hope of Nigerian women. And we understand that going to court is tedious, it takes time, but it solves the problem at its root.
So,
and that's why we
without
took that
cutting
route.
you,
And this judgment is a landmark judgment that we're very proud of, and all thanks to everybody
I'm happy
involved.
that the judgment was given by a male judge.
Yes.
And so we have started redeeming ourselves, right? But I have two perspectives to what has just happened. And when you talked, I listened quite rapidly, and something stuck with me when you talked about historical imbalances. And I was wondering if they were deliberate, but you went ahead to indeed mention that some of them were occasioned by cultural practices. But the question for me really is, not just with the pronouncement, but with the implementation.
Exactly.
And I'm happy you also acknowledge that. If you recognize that you have more than 50% of the population and you are not mobilizing for elections, how are you going to change the circumstances in the National Assembly? If for appointive positions, you are not pulling your weight, how do people then, like you rightly mentioned, your rights will not be served to you on a platter? Yeah. What are you doing other than just bringing this to the consciousness of Nigeria to ensure that women wake up and are counted? Because otherwise, until they are on the table, decisions that are made on the table that would affect them will be made anyways. So what are you doing with regards to mobilizing women folk?
So it's not what we are doing right now is, the first thing to do is also to have an uptick in the number of women running for office. And there are a lot of organizations that are also supporting and funding women's political participation. I would also wish that that is taken more seriously, where the funds are really invested in the actual candidates that are running for office, because you need political watchers to win political offices. Right. And the way the patented kind of politics that we have in Nigeria, we have a very monopolistic kind of politics. And when this monopoly of monopolistic politics is something we also need to address at the national level as a country. You can look at it in the business world, where there is a monopoly, there's no competition. The monopoly can serve you rubbish and you pay greatly for it. That's what we have in our politics. Even in economies, when your business is not doing well, when there's monopoly, you can't do anything about it. But if you bring that to politics, you can understand that when your politics is doing well, your country will do well. The problems of Nigeria, I can tell you, stems from our policies, our politics, and those who are holding power. We need to get in more people who can think, who can create, who can administer optimally for the good of our country. What are we doing? We are asking more women to step forward and run for office. Yeah. We are also asking that women, we are talking to women, because so many years of historical imbalances have also caused a kind of mindset that women are living with, even men. And you can't blame the men for that. When you find men who are developed, they pull in women. They don't go alone. They always think about the other gender. They think about their women, they think about their sisters, and all of that. Those are the kind of men we need in the political space. Secondly, we are also mobilizing for women to turn our number, which is more than 50% of Nigeria's population. 60% of women are the ones who vote during elections. And then at the end of the day, we want to turn our population. That number must become a resource, an election-winning resource. Women of Nigeria are, after what we have experienced with the National Assembly, where those gender bills were roundly rejected, we are now mobilizing. As I speak to you, women have, mobilize themselves. We are in states, we are in local communities, we have formed groups, and meetings are going on. We are meeting with traditional rulers, we are meeting with key stakeholders, even the political parties. You can hear that 2 days ago, the All Progressives Congress actually declared free forms for women. These are some of the things that the advocacies that women, and I must say that party, APC, has done. Even though you can see that information of people who are taking powers, there are not so many women in this government. But you can see that the party is doing something to address it, which one of these just happened, which is free forms, declaring free form. You know where we are now today. You know that things are really tough, and women oftentimes aren't having that political war chest. But a woman like myself, I will say that it's not enough to give free forms to women. What you need to do is to ensure that there is proportional representation in when you are forming your party leadership. Okay. You must intentionally bring in women, not just as women leaders, but as you have a chairman, let a woman be deputy chairman. There are zonal chairmen, let women occupy those people. You must intentionally do that, because that's what affirmative action is. When you are having, and people say, why are Nigerian women calling about on affirmative action? The truth is that affirmative action happens where there are all these diversities, so it also creates unity. Okay. That is why we have federal character. Federal character is affirmative action. What women are asking for in that federal character, let it have gender character as well. And I don't think that is...
Let's hear from Ojira.
And this time, to that issue of what are women doing, I wanted to state something based on the fact of these imbalances. Now, we should know one thing, and that is very clear. Economic resources, men have, how would I put it? They have dominance. There is no doubt about it. They have more. So one of the things that the National Gender Policy, for instance, considered was discrimination based on economic power. So, and then there was this part where she was discussing and talking about cultural. I want to believe that religious, let's say religious norms also have one or two roles to play in what is going on. But I think one of the things that I addressed in one of the articles I wrote for this book by Chido Onuma, Nigeria at 60, I've forgotten the title actually. I had to trace back, when did everything switch? Initially, Nigerian women had economic power, but it switched on colonialization.
Maybe you.
But you will do more on that. I will not emphasize on it, but I can tell you that colonization changed everything, because we were now coming under a particular system. They were trying to make sure that we assimilated their system. And under their system, women never had rights. Women were downplayed. Unlike, for instance, in my own my own culture, the Yoruba culture, women were pace setters, women were standing out. Efuroye Tinubu is an example. Now, for women that I have seen that are coming out, who automatically they have my vote if they are on the ballot paper. Whether I don't want to, I'm not being, I don't care about the party. I don't care. I've seen Khadijat. She's been trying to mobilize on Twitter, on Instagram, you know, and then I've seen her going out all of her way to Osun State, to places. And I'm impressed, because this is a young woman in her 40s, thereabout. And we can't say that women are not brilliant or intelligent. We can't say women cannot hold forth. We are doing that at home. We are basically administrators. Then there's another woman, Ade Sonya, who had come out at a particular, I think, which year was that? 2000, I can't remember. But she came out against that Yadua's election. Fumilayo, Professor Fumilayo Adesonya, she's also coming out. She's also has also expressed her interest.
At the risk of breaking you because of time, even though you have given free publicity to women, we give it all up. I want you to speak quickly, and you have just about 45 seconds each to do that. When you talk about breaking the bias, is it more with the men or with the women? Because we have seen women who have dared to come out. But we have not seen women queuing up behind women, even when you have the numbers to make the change. So where do you need to break the bias? Is it with the male folks or among your own folks?
That is easy. That is easy to resolve. Now, who has money to to spread around.
Why
Let's
not
be
set
sincere.
up your own system and float
No,
it for
because
free?
no, the economic power is very, very imbalanced. We are stating it. It is clear. It's not something that they have to tell you. To the extent that the political party thinks that, oh, I can just declare free forms for women. Of course, that is also to sort of like have an edge in the coming elections. But the truth of the matter is, if you look at the circumstances for every woman in Nigeria, you will see that they are not at par when it comes to economic. When you're talking about economy, we are not at par. And that has continued and has been the basis for a lot of how would I put it, participants, electorates at the elections.
Let me get your thought on this last question. 45 seconds.
Who needs to break the barriers, or from where do we break the barriers? I mean, the biases are at different spectrum.
Okay.
And is vague, is also broad spectrum. So we can't just, and when you're saying women need to support, the truth is that women are not homogeneous, because then you're expecting that a woman should be able to identify if a man is my preferred candidate. You should be able to know that this is a credible leader, a competent person. Give the person your vote because he's then you say because of gender, you say you see a woman who is not up to delivering, you say no. We're expecting that women are homogeneous. That said, all I'm saying is that women, when they talk about breaking biases, there are unconscious biases that we need to break. And again, men also do not support men because they're men. They have their codes, but they also sometimes withdraw support from fellow men and give it to another. It could be a woman, it could be a man. But bottom line, we're saying this 2023 election, let all political parties intentionally field credible, competent, and quality women so they can work across the party lines.
This is very interesting, you know. I don't want
to development of Nigeria.
I didn't want to stop her so that I will not be caught in that whole web of not providing a platform for women. But time is not our friend. It's been a pleasure listening to Mary Ikuku, the founder of Emerge Women and a member of the, how do you call it now?
Women
Manifesto. Interesting. And our able and rugged lawyer, as we say in the days of unionism, who has also helped to bring this to the fore. And she corrected her name, by the way. She said it's Ikaga. The N is silent. Kaga. Thank you very much for providing perspective. I'm sure this conversation is still up and we'll have the opportunity to expand. It's been a pleasure, going on this ride with you today. It's been a beautiful morning indeed from 6 a.m. to this point. This is the point where we draw the curtain on today's program. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
And I'm Zainab Bala. See you on Monday.